So, ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky to be joined by none other than touring car legend, two-time BTCC Champion, John Cleland. John, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to be here at Brands on a sunny day with so many memories of all these cars. Yeah, it's great.
Now, of course, last year, unfortunately, you weren't here, but of course, you're back this year, reunited with some of your cars, like the Cavalier, the Astra, the Vectra. How many memories have come flooding back to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the number of people that mention things that I've forgotten about, and there's just people that grew up in that whole mid-90s of super touring have great memories of it, and I must admit it was a fantastic time in my life. It made me very a recognisable name. People still ask me about 1992 and things like that. We're talking that's nearly 30 years ago. It's just such a long time, and people's memories just go back that far.
Now, of course, you are, as I mentioned, a part of BTCC history. Of course, that iconic battle with you and Steve Soper sort of put touring cars into the mainstream. Now, obviously, 30 years on, are you and Steve okay now, or is there still a bit of a
No. We've always been good friends. Literally, a few months after that happened, we resolved all our differences. I wasn't going to get my championship back. He was there to do a job of work, and he did what he was paid to do. The one that benefited was Tim Harvey, and I'm not going to get that championship back. But I feel, and most people feel, that was my championship anyway. So who knows?
Now, of course, back then you were getting paid, whereas as to now, sort of everyone's having to pay to be on the grid. What is your take on that? Do you think that the current drivers need to be paid, or?
Yeah, I think. Back when I was doing it, there was only 2 or 3 of us that had day jobs. Everybody else was a paid professional driver that did PR events through the week or did tuition at race schools. That's what they did for a living. What I did for a living was I was a car dealer. So for me to be paid to do something that actually I would have done for nothing. It was my hobby that I got paid, and that was an absolute bonus. Today, there's a couple of guys in British touring cars at this moment in time who are really, really good. And there's probably 3 of them that I think would have done and held their heads up high in any era of touring cars. So if they'd been in our time, they'd have been equally as good. They'd have been right at the front. So yes, they deserve to be paid, but that's the way the championship goes at the moment. There's not the manufacturer money. And I think there's a lot of cars that are struggling just to get on the grid, far less get on the grid and pay a driver a sum of money. So, yeah, it's a difficult one.
Now, of course, speaking of the modern drivers, of course, we've got the likes of Ash Sutton, Tom Ingram, Jake Hill leading the championship. What are your thoughts on those guys sort of becoming the modern-day legends of BTCC?
I don't know how you define a legend, but...
Well, a champion like you.
I think, you've got Ingram, who's a champion already. You've got Jake Hill, who's trying to become a champion. And you've got Ash Sutton, who's a multiple champion, and will go on to break every touring car record that there has been set. He will win more races than I think Jason Plato, who currently holds that record. He will win more championships, there's no doubt. He is probably the best I've seen in a touring car for a long, long time. He deserves to be paid properly for doing the job he does. Ingram, he's lifted his game this year. I think he's likely, he could, any one of those 3 could win the championship. Just because Jake Hill's leading, he's only leading that really because Ash Sutton had 2 mechanical failures at Oulton Park, and that pushed him back on the points. He still makes too many mistakes. He's good, he's fast, he's undoubtedly capable of doing it. He just needs to stop making mistakes.
And now one last question. What are your thoughts on the hybrid technology? It's been around for a couple of years now. Of course, it wasn't even a concept when you were racing. So what's your thought on this hybrid taking over?
I'm not sure. I think hybrid we've got on the road. I got involved in motorsport all these years ago because of the sound and smell of motorsport. That's what drove me to it. That's what I love. So the moment that we go all electric touring car racing, then I've lost interest.
Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I think if you look at where we are on commercially the point of view of the cars on the main road and where we're heading and over the next coming years, I think we will undoubtedly have to look at more electrification, maybe more hybrid if that's the way it's going to go, but still retain an engine. Sadly, I think that's the case, and that's only good for all these old legends of touring cars here that have proper 4-cylinder V6 or straight 4 engines. They sound fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Hopefully we never lose that.
All right, John, well, thank you so much. As I mentioned before we start recording, you are a legend, 2-time BTCC champ. So big thanks to John for joining us. And yeah, please sure to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see all of you in the next one. Goodbye. Thanks.